I can hear the crinkling of more candy. And just to let you know that the next round of candy throwing will be almost the very end of the service. That'll be for Sienna. Wonderful job she's done today, really. And again, with such a beautiful spark and spirit. Same kind of candy. We have wonderful candy distributors working their way through the congregation. For many, many years now, I think it would probably be close to 20 at this point, I've been releasing 2 reading lists a year, just for folks in the congregation who might be interested. I do one in the winter, usually a shorter reading list, and then I do one in the summer, which I usually put together for Memorial Day weekend. So hopefully over the next few days. Generally, the list includes some fiction. I read a lot of fiction, some nonfiction. Every once in a while, I put a biography in there as well. Usually, one of the books on the list is Jewishly oriented, not always, but commonly. And I know that some people actually read 1 or 2 of the books on the list. Great. Others never see it, which is also fine. But it's something I've enjoyed doing over the years. And the reason that I've enjoyed doing it is because I love to read. I love to read. And that has been that way for me, that love of reading, for as long as I can remember. When I was a little boy, I loved being read to. That was before I was able to read myself. Some of my very, very earliest memories in the apartment over on Rogine Drive. Some of you know where that is, just on the edge of Mount Washington. My father was in Vietnam for a year in the service, and my mom's sister, my Aunt Janie, came and lived with us for that year. I was an early riser then, still am today, and I would get up early in the morning, wake up my poor Aunt Janie, and she would read to me in those early mornings. I vividly remember it. I remember learning to read myself. That was, I guess, kindergarten, first grade, and some of you may have done this as well, but proudly coming home with the first book I had learned to read. It was like See Spot Run. Remember the See Spot Run books? And I read the whole text of the book into my dad's reel-to-reel tape recorder. Okay, some of you have no idea what that is, and others will remember it. My love of reading has stayed with me for my whole life. It's such an important part of who I am in my day-to-day. I think in many ways it's one of the things that has defined me. When I was a boy, I read voraciously. Book after book after book. Some of you will remember also clock radios. Many will not in the room, but clock radios. I had a clock radio, and if you turned the illumination of it, it had those flip cards to make the numbers, and if you turned the illumination up, it was bright enough that I could drag it under my covers with a book and read by the light of that clock radio at night. But because it was under the covers, my parents would see no light emanating from underneath my door. And I would read well into the late hours of the night. I remember once reading the entire novel, Planet of the Apes, the whole novel, in one night, under the covers like that. A trivia question, by the way, who wrote that? Nope. No one knows. Get back to me later if anyone figures it out, who wrote Planet of the Apes. French author, I'll tell you that much, French author. So I still read every single day. Every single day, my wife Gail will tell you that I do not go to sleep at night without reading. Even if it's late, I spend a few minutes reading before I fall asleep every single night. I will also tell you that a love of reading is a helpful thing when you go to rabbinical school. There's a lot of reading in rabbinical school. There were weeks when I had hundreds and hundreds of pages of reading that had been assigned. A lot of it was in English, some of it was in Hebrew, some of it was actually in Aramaic as well, language Aramaic used by the rabbis in the Talmud and the Midrash. And that probably doesn't surprise you, the idea that in rabbinical school you'd have a lot of reading, because that's what Jews do. We talked about this a little bit in Parsha class this morning, that Jews see themselves and often refer to ourselves as Am HaSefer, is the Hebrew for it. In English, the people of the book, the people of the book. So you can understand that term, the people of the book, sort of small-scale and large scale. Small scale, say the people of the book. The book is the Torah that we just so reverently placed in the ark a moment ago. But large scale, people of the book, large scale, because the Jewish community and Jews historically have a reputation for intellectual acumen, for being bookish. We are known, and we talked about this also in the Torah study class this morning, as being learners, cogitators, studiers of text, poring over text. And because of that experience, the power of the Word and how through the power of the Word, ideas can be expressed and transmitted, and traditions and history can be preserved, and a conversation can take place. That's what happens in Jewish text. A conversation takes place about what is important, ultimately important in life. And through text, through the power of words, the Jewish community has that conversation around the world and also through the generations at the same time. You open a Talmud, and there are multiple voices from multiple generations on that page. How many of you were here Monday night for Henry Winkler? Probably quite a few. Yeah, quite a few. He was terrific. It was just a great night for the shul. Really, really special night. One of the things he said, Henry Winkler, if you remember, he said, they can take things away from you, but they cannot take ideas away from you. They can take things away from you, but they can't take ideas away from you. Sort of what you think, how you feel, who you are internally. That's always yours. And when the temple was destroyed in Jerusalem 2,000 years ago or so, how was it at that time that Jewish community was able to continue to exist? The temple was the center of Jewish life, Jewish theology, Jewish thought. They were able to continue with their Judaism because they could take the Torah, the book, and they could travel with it anywhere around the world. And the Torah, the book, was the repository of our history, our identity, our calendar, our moral code, all from a book. And one could argue, I think plausibly so actually, that without the Torah, without a book, Judaism would not exist today. There's a hint of that in this morning's Torah portion. Sienna actually spoke about it in her Devar Torah as she was introducing the Torah portion to us. And she talked about how the Torah illustrates almost the end of the parsha, the power and importance of words, and it comes from that puzzling incident. An Israelite uses God's name incorrectly. The Hebrew verb there is an unusual one. Vayikov is the Hebrew word. Where's Eva? Eva's out there somewhere. Vayikov. Eva, we'll have to look that root up later. I think it might be Nun Kuf Vet for all the Hebrew grammarians out there. Most likely, it means to curse. Most likely. It's an obscure word, hard to translate. Most likely, it means to curse. So either it means that the Israelite cursed God, or it means that the Israelite in that passage used God's name to curse someone else, And the Torah understands this as a grievous sin, a terrible, terrible sin. And I think that seems strange to us because to us, words just don't have as much meaning as they used to. We use words so lightly, so easily. If you say something, who cares? I said something, posted something on the internet or whatever. But to the Torah and to Judaism, words have tremendous power, tremendous power. And if you think about it, a book, at the end of the day, what is it? It's a collection of words. That's what a book is. Beautiful words, sometimes challenging words, hard words, loving words. Great authors use their words as tools, and they form from the words sentences and paragraphs and chapters, challenging us in the course of the texts that they create, challenging us with new ideas, reminding us of what is most important, reflecting for us on the human experience. What does it mean to live as a human being? We need books. We need books in our lives. Books tell us not just the Jewish story, books tell the human story. That's what books do. And we live in a time today when books are being challenged and in some cases banned. books that have been on the shelves of libraries for 30 years or 40 years, or in some cases 50 or 60 years. They're being removed. I mean, talking about classic books, 1984, or The Handmaid's Tale, or To Kill a Mockingbird, classic books. More recently, Water for Elephants, The Kite Runner, The Color of Purple. These books are being taken off of the shelves, particularly of school libraries. Now, some might say, it's happening in school libraries. And there, in a school library, because maybe it's a controversial text, you need to have a serious discussion, a rational conversation, and maybe that has to happen community by community. What's appropriate for a young person to read, what's not appropriate for them to read. I would say personally that we underestimate our children. I think we do that all the time. They can cope with the material. They've been doing it already, as I said, for many, many decades. They probably understand it far better than we think they do, A. And B, they can find it somewhere else. I'd rather have them find it in a library, in their school, than somewhere on the internet. But it's not only about children, and it's not only about school libraries. The Naval Academy recently went through its library's book collection, and it pulled 381 books off the shelves. 381 books pulled off the shelves of the Naval Academy Library. Now, the midshipmen are not children. They're not children. They can decide what books they want to read and what books they don't want to read. They can cope with the material. Now, the books, maybe they raise difficult themes, challenging themes, confront us with our imperfections, maybe, okay? Remind us of who we are. But in doing all of that, challenge us with remembering who we should be. As Jews, we are intimately familiar with the banning and censorship of books. Intimately. 2nd century, the Romans banned the study of Torah in ancient Israel. 13th century, in France, Louis IX ordered the burning of volumes of the Talmud. 15th century, in Spain, Jewish books, Humashim and Sifrei Torah and Talmuds and collections of Midrashim were banned and confiscated. The list goes on and on and on. And here in the United States, in Texas, less than a year ago, an illustrated version of Anne Frank's diary and Maus, the Art Spiegelman graphic novel about the Holocaust, were pulled off the shelves of school libraries in some Texas communities. So folks, this is summertime. It's coming. It's a great time to read. A lot of people read in the summer. This is a time to read. Particularly, read books that are being pulled off of shelves. You can find a list of the 381 books that were taken out of the Naval Academy Library. It's right on the U.S. Navy website. Just look it up, click on it, 381 books listed right there. On the website of the Jewish Book Council, you can find a list of Jewish books that have recently been pulled from bookshelves in the United States. Barnes & Noble, on their website, keeps a list of books that have been banned and challenged over the last couple of years. And on my summer reading this list this year, which again I hope to post in the next couple of days, you'll find a banned book or two on that list as well. So let's all read this summer. Let's read for pleasure, for sure. Like I said, I love to read. But let's also read for purpose. Add a banned book to your summer reading list. And wherever you go, you're on the airplane, you're on the beach, wherever you're traveling, carry it with you. Shabbat Shalom.